So let's get uncomfortable. Let's get uncomfortable.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Uncomfortable Leader Podcast. In every episode, we explore the uncomfortable leadership moments that executives face at every stage of the business life cycle and at each stage of their career. We discuss how they navigated those moments and the lessons they've learned. Their stories and their experience are informative, inspiring, and filled with practical advice that we can use every day. And that's where today's Uncomfortable Leader guest comes in, Archie Heinl. Archie is the co-founder and CEO of AA Solutions, a software-as-a-service holding company in Toledo, Ohio. Archie, thanks for making time in your busy schedule to join us on the Uncomfortable Leader Podcast.
Absolutely. Excited to be here, Rick.
Well, for the audience, Archie and I go back a couple of years. We actually had the opportunity to work together in the early stages as he moved from being a software development company, as he moved into the world of SaaS and software as a service. So for me, it's been fun to sit back and watch Archie navigate the uncomfortable leadership moments that he and his company have faced. So we'll have fun today talking about those. So Archie, tell us real quick a little bit about AA.
Yeah, AA really, it goes back really to 2003, really building custom software. And so what that means is, it was really one of these things where certainly there's a lot of need out there technology wise. And a lot of times companies or businesses don't really know what they don't know, or they're looking for a solution. A lot of times it's off the shelf or, something online, a SaaS product to try to fit their needs within their business. And a lot of times they get into scenarios where they can't find something that meets their needs. And so they need something custom built. And that there's an investment certainly with that. But what we would do is figure out a way in which we understand what's going on, what they're trying to solve, where they're at, and what it needs to look like at the end of the day. And so we would build, something custom. So it was really something from scratch to try to meet that business need. And so that was kind of how it started, was just interacting with these different businesses, finding out their needs, and then building something that's specific to what they need. And so that's really how it started. And then it kind of moved into more of the SaaS side of things, to where we wanted something where it was a recurring revenue, recurring subscription and so forth, and something that we could continue to invest in and build up and make great. And so started building, our first product was Blitz, and that was one in which it was a sales follow-up software. So it's a way in which it really took off within the insurance space, but it's used by a number of different businesses to manage their follow-up. And part of this solution was it helped automate the follow-up. So it was a lot of times eliminating the manual activities that a lot of times businesses are doing today, and helping it through with automation. And so and that's really what AA is about, is eliminating the manual activities that a lot of times businesses don't understand that they're doing, and they can save a lot of time, money. They can help scale their business, all of those types of things. And so we've done that with custom, and then we've moved into the SaaS side of things. And so we've got a chunk of products that way, and they're going extremely well. One of the latest ones is Janitorial Manager, which is really one in which we're able to not only do things nationally, but internationally. And so that's exciting to be able to continue to build solutions that can work really across the world.
And as I listen to you give that thumbnail, what popped in my head is I work with leaders like yourself on helping them understand how to identify and how to manage in a calm manner the cycle of uncomfortable moments that their company faces. You do that on the technology side. You take that manual work that they do, and
Right.
You're using software solutions to help them navigate through in a more systematic way those uncomfortable moments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what's exciting about it. That's what I love about the job is just really seeing that, a lot of times it was kind of one of these things where it's like, hey, we're using computers, we're using spreadsheets, we're using mobile phones, we're using email, and we're up on technology. And it's kind of like, well, no, there's a lot better ways to do what you're doing here. A lot of times manually, or even with the system, they might be doing just pieces and parts with maybe an accounting package
Right.
or whatever the system may be, or their process. And so it's neat to be able to take what they're doing and then translate that into a system to make things so much better, and allow businesses really to scale. And
You're using technology to routinize, gain control of, and more calmly manage those little uncomfortable tactical tasks that
absolutely
people don't even realize they're doing. You're just,
right.
well, that's my job, I'm doing it. You don't realize, well, you don't need to do it that way. We
Right.
can let the software do it so you can do
Yep.
better and more productive
Right.
things.
Exactly. And it's cool. I mean, even in certain, I've heard it multiple times, and it's kind of funny. I kind of joke about it to a certain extent, but we've actually changed people's lives. I
Right.
joke that way, but I've literally heard that. I mean, I was in an event shoot, was it a few months ago, Clean Building Expo, and the company, a current customer, came up and they're like, well, hey, we're like, what do you like the best about our product? And with janitorial manager, and they're like, well, actually, we're able to be here. We weren't able to do stuff like this. We were pounding keyboards, pulling report, doing all of these other
Yeah.
things, and they weren't able to go and work on their business versus in their business. And so they're like,
Right.
you've really changed that. Yes,
Yeah.
they liked certain features and stuff like that they mentioned, but they're like, really, you've changed our life to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You've freed up time.
Time.
And
Right.
sometimes clients don't really understand that, and or prospects. And so, but once you really you have to put in a little bit of work at time to get things set up and the process is going. But once you do that, wow, you're going to make out on the long end.
The magic words, time,
Mhm.
because there's only a limited amount and we're not making more of it. And how can we do things smarter and things of that nature? Those are all great statements. But what you do and what I do is we show people how to do that. I think most people know they need to better manage their time to therefore better manage their business. That's easy to say, but the
Correct.
question is, well, what are the step-by-step instructions by how I do that? And that's what you guys do with technology. We're really selling time.
Right. Yeah. And I know one of the things that I had learned, early on with some of the things that you had brought to the table was really getting ahead of things, so you're not going. I'll talk maybe from a marketing perspective for a second, and it's more or less, setting up those schedules to where it's like, okay, well, let's do these things well in advance, so we're not under this time crunch at the end. Because when you do that, then everyone you lose creativity. You're not doing as well. It doesn't come out at the end the way
Right.
you really want, and
Right.
your time is then stressed. And
Right.
if you can get in front of things and take the time to do it right, again, you're going to just evolve that much better
Right.
with whatever.
It's well, do you want me to be more comfortable? And the answer is no. I don't want you to be more comfortable. What we want you to do is calmly manage the cycle of uncomfortable moments, because those uncomfortable moments, as you've lived in your career, they're not stopping. You're going
Absolutely.
from one to the next, to the next, to the next.
There's things that can come in from all over. Your point, it's being prepared. It's having the right people that are trained, or the right people that
Right.
are in the positions for that to be able to handle those.
Right. Let's go back in time. I want to go back to Archie. You're still a young man, but I want to go back when you were a younger man. Go back to your first managerial job. Do you remember the first one?
I guess there's different times that you're leading, I guess. But I mean, if you're truly a manager, to a certain extent, really, I guess, I was a developer, and then I started to continue to evolve there. And then I started to have a team, report to me in a roundabout way. We still had a manager above me that, sometimes they were taking directives from, but kind of the day to day is where I was kind of.
So depending on the project, did you have like different people from different departments or different other teams come in? Is that kind of what you're getting at? It was kind of
Somewhat. Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, I would be involved in maybe taking some of the the questions, even really from the customers, and working with really a project manager, but kind of being more the technical project side of it, and being involved with those to be able to translate down to our team, and manage to a certain extent,
Right.
managing projects from a technical perspective, and working with the other
Yeah, working with
technical
people
team.
on those projects. So
Right.
think back in time, some sleepless nights when you can always people say, well, Rick, how do you identify an uncomfortable moment? I mean, usually it starts with not being able to sleep.
Right.
That's the beginning of it. So, is there any like really strong, uncomfortable moments that just pop in your mind that you'll like never forget the rest of your life?
There've been some challenging times, certainly. Looking at if I go back, prior to starting my company, there was scenarios where we were I was involved in not only building but hosting and maintaining online banking software, and
Okay.
so we had a number of clients that way, and that's critical stuff. It's obviously it's not only the technology, but it's the security behind it. And so, there were some challenging times where, to your point, we were up all night, and where servers are going up and down, and you're trying to talk with other managers, trying to work with your team, trying to work with the customers, and there's security related things going on that are challenging, and even scenarios where data has been you know not compromised, but somebody saw somebody else's data, and what's going on with that, and because our servers are crashing and things like that. And so
Right.
you have to work through those things. I mean, some of which it was even newer technology where we had taken over something that somebody else built. So not only it's stuff you don't really know, you've got to then learn it, figure it out, be in an very uncomfortable situation, be extremely tired because you're pulling an all nighter, and and finding a way to work together as a team, and not also bite each other's heads off, and all those
Right.
types of things. So to your point, you have to be calm in those scenarios, even when you've got the bank calling you over here because that's your client, and then and they're getting calls from their customers. You've got another call coming in from Microsoft, and they're trying to help you solve different things, and then you've got your team here that's really toasted. They've been up all night, and
Right.
you're working with different groups, and so yes, that's definitely stuff I won't ever forget. Certainly.
Right.
And so you don't have a choice. You have to be calm under pressure there, and
Right.
and you got to figure it out. There's no
Yeah, it's because
two
you got to
ways about
solve
it.
the problem.
Yeah.
That's a good scenario. Just that whole thing of the uncomfortable moments, managing between internal departments,
Mhm.
managing to your partners, like you said, Microsoft, to external to you. So you're going to your vendors and your
Right.
partners, and then so it's like a 3-way triangle nightmare. And then probably
Exactly.
within each of those different companies, there's probably 3, 4, 5, 7 other departments and people. So you're not dealing with like you to
Right.
somebody else. You're dealing with like 12 or
Right.
15 people, and you
Right.
got 5 minutes to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody wants answers, and answers right then. Well, how I'm trying to work it out to fix the problem. But then you got
Right.
phones on both ears and everything else. That's
If you were to share with people that are in that moment right now for the first time,
right.
do you have any things that just stick out in your mind, or lessons that you carried with you even today from that moment?
I think we've talked about it already, being calm, but I think part of it is listening. You have to be a good listener. I've always been taught nothing's as good as it seems, but nothing's as bad as it seems. So
Right.
I know it feels like the world, just the world is crashing down at certain points, but you're going to get through it. You have to be calm, because if you as a leader are getting too worked up, and um, that's just what your team is going to react that way as well. So you have to be calm under pressure. Kind of like the quarterback in football. You have to. Everybody's looking at you, right? So
Right.
if you're frantic and you're super stressed out, then team's going to be that
Right.
same way. So you have to balance. You have to be calm, listen, not get too high, not get too low, and continue to work through it. And despite it feel like the sometimes
Right.
the weight is on your shoulders there. So
So you got this bedrock now of
Mhm.
project management, software coding, dealing with customers, dealing with vendors. You got that going on. Now you decide to get outside of that business and make your own business.
right.
What are some of the uncomfortable moments that you went through?
Well, I think you have to, there's a lot to that because especially when you're first getting started, you're doing everything. You're doing, just you're building the code, you're selling the product, you're marketing it, you're listening to customers, you're doing, these other things that you weren't exposed to before. You're not only formulating the company, but you're doing all the other things that are related to that and filing all the things, accounting wise. You're getting exposed to,
Right.
a number of things that, I mean, a lot of times you're just doing the work, but now you got to start to think what's all involved here. And so really, I think all of those things are really new. And a lot of times when they're new, they're to a certain degree uncomfortable right there
Mhm.
because you want to know exactly what you're doing. This is all new to you. And then when something's all new, you just start getting, okay, where do I go from here? Oh, this is a lot. Well, sometimes maybe it isn't that difficult at times, but you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and so you have to take it. You have to learn from other owners. You got to learn from mentors. You got to just uh, I know you're doing everything for everyone, and you're doing everything within the business. And there's nights. I was working a lot of through the night in order to meet deadlines because you don't time is time is tough. You know what I mean? And so you're kind of burning it on both ends there, but that's kind of really what it takes to.
There's lots of books, a lot of research on that, and there's a very old book, the E Myth, the
Right, right,
entrepreneurial myth, and it's gives the example, kind of like what you're talking about. It's like I've got this idea, I can do it better, and I'm going to leave the company I'm with and do it on my own. And then the next thing you know, yeah, you're making money, you're not maybe lighting it up, but you're taking care of business. But the problem is you're working 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you hate life
right.
because you're not working on the things you love. You're working on taxes. You're
Exactly,
working on,
exactly.
a phone system. You're
Right,
working on a website, what the things that you
right,
really are not part of your passion, but they're
exactly.
necessary in order to be alive in your
Right.
business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And you could be
so if
doing
go ahead, I'm sorry.
phenomenal work, building amazing things, but then hey, you don't have a website or your website looks terrible, and they're judging you on your website. And okay, crap, I better
Right.
pick up my game there because that's a reflection of me. And again, but yeah, you're to your point, you're getting pulled into a lot of things that you didn't really anticipate or didn't or don't enjoy, at
Right.
times, but you got to get done.
Right. So what's fun about our conversation is you worked in a company, then you launched a company. And so as you come through the stages of the business life cycle, you had an idea, so you did the ideation part, then you did the startup part, and then you've progressed into starting multiple software as a service company, and
Right.
you're now trying to scale those. How have the uncomfortable moments changed from that very beginning where you're doing everything to today where you're managing a holding company that's got all these different software products underneath it? How have those moments changed?
Certainly it's bring further building your team, and when you're doing that, there's a lot involved with that. We've talked about the fact that everybody's looking at you, looking for direction, looking for leadership, all those types of things. So you have to think out of that lens. I thought about when I was an employee and what was important to me and how I saw things, and so I wanted to make sure that I was making it a place where people wanted to be, that they wanted to grow and be in a good cultural spot here. And so, that's you. So you're thinking about all those things. How do I represent this whole company? How do I pull in the right people? What do the right people look like? And some of that's trial and error, So you don't know what you don't know. It's new, it's uncomfortable. You all of a sudden start getting into other, whether it be HR related items that, oh shoot, I wasn't even really thinking about this, but hey, you got to make sure that you have to have the employee handbook, and you got to make sure that these things are defined so people know, what makes sense, how the company is run, and you've got to continue to see the whole picture, and some of that can be certainly uncomfortable. Again, you're pulling into different things that maybe really aren't your focus, or you didn't want it to be your focus, but that continues to be a thing. And so
Right.
you end up getting comfortable with those really uncomfortable items, right?
Yeah, it's those things we don't know. It's interesting. If you've got an undergrad in business or an MBA, you've typically gone through a class called strategic management and the 12 principles of strategic management. You have strategy formulation, and there's 4 processes under that. And you have strategy execution, and there's 4 processes under that. And then you have strategy evaluation, and there's 4 processes under that. Right? So it's interesting, as a consultant, when I look at leaders, most of them don't remember taking that class, and they don't remember it because in the early part of like in your case, you're a coder.
Right.
So you came right out of college coding. You didn't come right out in the principle, how do you write business plans? So it's like even if you went through the class, you still didn't apply it. So by the time you get to 30 or 40, you don't remember any of it. Now you're just like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's until you start seeing, until it's part of what you're doing, and you really can see it, you can breathe it, you can feel it. Oh, okay. Now I know what that's talking about. Okay. It makes
I remember that
sense. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is now making tons more sense, but you don't, it's hard. They might be teaching the exact right stuff at school or whatever, but until you're in the game, you're thinking about it.
Because you're dealing with the fight. Like you said, you're working hard all day, and that doesn't stop whether you're in a startup or whether you're a $50 billion company. It's just the magnitude, the size of those uncomfortable moments, and sometimes the length of the duration to solve those gets bigger as you get into bigger company, but you're still just dealing with those. And so what I've really found, Archie, is the antidote to the problem is embedded right in that 12 principles of strategic management.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit live and learn. And I think you always, there's those principles, and I feel like you always certainly have to be in a learning mode, and you're hitting, sometimes maybe you didn't hit that step or that scenario before, and it becomes a new scenario. And sometimes it's unpredictable. There's different things that go on, that you have to be, you have to change course, or you have to, you didn't know, they're out of your control even, it's out of your control. So, okay, that can make you uncomfortable. Okay. But all right, well, how do we plan to figure out, how do we get around that? What do we do next? And a lot of times you're already planning for that. And, a lot of that is, and I really have set the company up to be diversified, which I like, and it helps that way too, because there's a lot of different changes going on constantly, even in the world today. So
if you, as a leader, as in a startup and in the current size company you are today, have you ever felt comfortable?
I don't know, and I don't like to be comfortable. That's the thing. I don't feel, if I'm feeling comfortable, I feel like I'm not doing something right, or I'm not kind of going to the next level. I'm not pushing myself enough. It doesn't matter really kind of what it is. It can be even working out and waking up early. I try to now, wake up all the time at like, 4:45, get up, get going, just get after it, and stress your body, stress your mind. And, if I'm starting to feel comfortable, I don't feel good.
So the issue is, how do you train yourself and your employees to be calm? And it's funny, you said it a bunch of times through the last 30 minutes here that, that the trick is to be calm. How do you be
Yeah.
calm?
And I think part of it runs along with and is positivity. I try to preach positivity all the time because honestly, it's really easy to be negative, and you're comfortable being negative. Oh, you can't do that. I can't do that. You feel, you know, I don't like that. Everything's, we got to be positive. We got to figure out a way. We got to stay positive about it, regardless of what the heck's going on. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I think that's part of calmness is bringing that positivity, because you got to figure out a way. You got to be positive. You got to work through things. All of that, and
Right.
things are going to go wrong. Things are going to happen, and you just got to be ready. Things aren't going to be perfect, and never going to be perfect. And so you still got to be positive. You got to be thinking. You got to be involving. You got to so.
Right. Well said. So let me ask you this as we kind of move to close out our time. What advice do you have for managers and executives, that are running departments or running companies? What advice do you have for them about how to really navigate these uncomfortable moments?
Right. Yeah. I think it's being prepared. It's being prepared just mentally and ready to, or just with that understanding that things aren't going to work out perfectly. Things are going to happen. You just know things aren't going to go right. Right. So you have to have that mindset that, hey, I'm going to be positive. We're going to work through things, and we're not going to be denied. And we're going to be, there's going to be challenges. There's always going to be challenges. And how are we going to be able to stay positive through that? And so by being positive and by not getting stressed or being unprepared, or always under the assumption that things are always going to be right, I think you're not as frazzled. It's just, okay, I understand there's going to be these uncomfortable moments. I understand that there's going to be problems. I understand that, and it's going to come at times that you're not really wanting these things to come, at that time, but you're going to work through those things. And so, you're going to find a way, and you just have to stay calm under pressure, and believe in yourself, and just be prepared for those moments, and
Right.
And continue to build, certainly a team around you that believes in those same things, and so that can handle those uncomfortable moments, and bring that calmness. That's I've seen with my team here that they're able to, hey, despite certain challenges, they're just able to handle that and figure out a way, versus doom and gloom and all those
Right.
types of things. We got to fight
Yeah.
through those uncomfortable moments and understand that those are going to continue to come. So,
Right. Well, it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's able to be seen behind me for those that are watching the podcast, but on my shelf behind me, there's a little postcard I picked up down at Cape Canaveral many, many years ago, with the famous quote from Apollo 13 that failure is not an option.
right.
It's just not
Exactly.
an, and that's pretty
Right.
much what you're saying. You live and
Yes.
breathe every day, and the
Yes.
positivity you try to bring to solving that. No,
Right.
we're gonna fix it,
Right. Exactly.
matter
Yeah.
what.
If you have that mindset, I don't care really what's coming. We're going to resolve it. And so if you have that already built in your mind, I think it just starts to come a bit natural that we're gonna figure this thing out, and that
Right.
exudes through your company, through your conversations, through everything, and
Right.
to bring that calmness in those uncomfortable moments.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. So true. The thing I leave with you as we move to end the podcast is, how much time are we spending teaching ourselves the technical side of being an executive, being a manager, managing the 12 principles of strategic management? How much time are you sharpening that sword in addition to reading leadership development books? If you're dealing with a high volume of uncomfortable moments, you're dealing with them because you're not proactively managing with your leadership team
Mm-hmm.
those 12 principles. Back to your point early on, and you said it multiple times, Archie, that you got to get in front of it. You got to get proactive. Well, in our behaviors, we got to get in front of it, but in the technical aspects of running and managing the business, we got to do that too.
It does, and a lot of times you don't want to stop. You just want to go 100 miles an hour. I mean, I want
Right.
to keep working on what I'm working on and get us to the next level. And at the same time, you have to have structure around it and be able to game plan. All of those things, and you have to take the time to get things in order. I know, certainly working with you, you set some good structural things, with me and in our company here to, understand the different moving parts and having a plan around them versus, certainly doing anything off the seat of our pants. It's like, oh, this is coming. Think about this coming. Think about this coming. And those are things I'm like, oh, shoot, he was right. You got to get ahead of it. Whether it's, hey, extending office space or doing this, doing that. It's like, oh yeah, why am I not thinking about that?
Right.
And there's just uncomfortable things or things that you're just really not thinking about that come into play, because there's a lot of different things coming from many different angles. And I feel if you get exposed to that and have that good foundation and structure, then things become, a little bit more, not predictable, but you're more calm when these things come about.
I like what you say a lot, Archie, when you talk about getting ahead of it and things, when you get ahead of it, things do become a little more predictable. You can see things, and I love when you say it makes it more calm, calmer, right?
Yeah.
I want you to know that I'm grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful for your time. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate all that you've helped us here with, at Double A. You've certainly helped us in numerous ways, and that's, continues on forward. So,
yeah. Well, the best is yet to come.
Exactly.
That's it for this episode of the Uncomfortable Leader podcast. Now it's time to take control and calmly manage the cycle of uncomfortable leadership moments that you're facing, and to prepare your leadership team to calmly manage that cycle with you. So here's the thing. Let's get uncomfortable. Are you ready to take control and calmly manage the cycle of uncomfortable leadership moments? Then let's schedule an assessment or a keynote speech at your next meeting or conference, a training workshop, or a coaching session. Go to uncomfortableleader.com and click on the link. It's time to take control of the uncomfortable leadership moments facing your company and department. Now let's get uncomfortable.